What's up, my family? Listen, first-time listener, or you've been here the whole damn time. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, giddy up, let's go, no notes.
That's my baby. I'm dying. That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
What
the hell was that? Oh, yeah!
What the f*** are you talking about?
All right, everybody, welcome in to another edition of Real Talk Fantasy. Jesse King, Mike Everly, I'm Rob Brinkman from the Real Talk Studios, exclusively on A2D Radio, live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Stream us wherever you get your podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. A big show tonight. First, let me tell you that each and every week we are brought to you by Baguio's Breads, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, home of the best stuffed breads, tomato pies, sandwiches, cutlets, and meatballs. Mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. Baguio Breads now open 9 to 3 every Sunday to better service your football needs. A rare 1 o'clock game for the Eagles in the Philadelphia area there in Mount Laurel. So definitely capitalize on the great deals they have there at Baguio's Breads. We had a big show tonight. You're either in a good position or it's time to throw up a Hail Mary. Best way to do that is trades. We got the full trade block preview, who you should be trading for based on your situation and who you shouldn't be trading for. We got waiver wire and injury news. We got flex debates, toss-ups for you. And then we will try and enlighten the people on who we like from a survivor pool standpoint. Let's start with our poll question. Biggest elephant in the room, I think, is in fantasy right now. Really the first overall pick in many fantasy drafts and during draft season is you should trade for Justin Jefferson in fantasy football. Agree, disagree, let us know in the comments. We'll get to as many as we can throughout the weekend leading up to the 1 o'clock games on Sunday. But 4 to 6 week injury. He's on IR. He's out at least the 4 weeks. Mike, we mentioned in the pre-show that he's probably not going to be out those 6 weeks. I think the Minnesota Vikings on this 2-game winning streak all of a sudden really helps the fact that Justin Jefferson is going to be back on the field as soon as he's ready. They're going to try and make a push. They're paying Kirk Cousins a lot of money. They were in the playoffs last year. They want to push. Trades are tricky. I mean, should I trade for Justin Jefferson? I'm going to defer. Mike, what do you think about this poll question?
Personally, I think it depends on your team. One, your record will matter, obviously. If you're most likely 5-1, 6-0, something in those areas where you're probably top end of the league, you should definitely look to get a guy Justin Jefferson's caliber. Now, when I say get the makeup of your team, I, for example, was lucky enough to pick up Puka in addition to already going receiver heavy. So for me, I've been offering guys that need receivers, one of my receivers, Ridley or Puka, and see something else, try and add something else in there to go get Jefferson, because I think Jefferson is another caliber compared to them. I'm trying to upgrade my team for the playoffs, knowing that I don't need Jefferson to play right now. I can just sit him on my bench for a couple weeks, and then when he's back and healthy, I put him in there, and I'm running out Justin Jefferson with Tyreek Hill, and I could rolling up points. So for me, I'm looking at the makeup of my team to see if I have the ability to keep him on the bench and not ever have to worry about starting him until he's back, and or where is my what's my record? Can I absorb a loss or two depending on if something goes bad? So those are the two key things that I would look for in acquiring somebody of Justin Jefferson's caliber.
Jesse?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Mike, when you said that your team is positioned to put Jefferson on your bench or on your IR spot and, just wait for him to come back, be healthy, and he can help you in your stretch run, right? You're looking for the perfect marriage right now, right? And it has to be, we're talking that Disney Channel, back in the day, Disney Channel movie kind of love, right? The real cheesy kind, because, you hear some of these trades get talked about and tossed around, and you can't believe that, someone is, her, it's like, him, like that's who you with. Okay. All right. Well, if he's the one you want or she's the one you want, then go for it. More power to you. I'm happy for you both. You hear a lot of trades like that going down. So you got to do your due diligence. You got to pepper the league. And, if you listen to, our trade talks, when we talked about general trade strategy in previous episodes, you've heard us mention you have to reach out to your league mates, right? And talk about a trade. You can't just send random offers and hope and pray and expect them to get accepted. You have to, shoot them a text, give them a call. If you know them personally or if you're close to them, meet up for a drink at the local bar, get them a little loose, and and then really get into some real trade talks and trade negotiations, because it's hard to get trades done in fantasy football, right? Players, managers evaluate players so differently. It's a very short season. It's hard for people to forget about draft day costs, with such a short season. A lot of people are just in it for fun, right? Where they want all of their Eagles or they want all of their Cowboys because they're fans of that team, So it's hard. You really got to, do a little work. It's not as easy as just sending out a trade offer and getting it accepted.
If you have a good record and you're able to withstand being Justin Jefferson it's an absolute agree. Mm-hmm. You got it. Look, if you have a good record in fantasy football right now, you need to be trading all your depth for the best starting roster possible for your stretch run. If you're going to go all in, go all in. If you want to get that cake, that money at the end of the season, that beer, whatever you play for, you got to have the best starting roster possible once these bye weeks disappear. So that being said, Justin Jefferson, he's going to be raring to go. I think this hamstring is ultimately going to be fine, and he's going to be ready to go for the stretch run. And if you're in an 8-10 team league, even more so, you got to get the best starting roster possible. I traded for Amon-Ra St. Brown in a 10-person league last week. This afternoon, I made a trade for Jamar Chase. Not the same league, but also a 10-team league. I'm not in any 8-person leagues. I'm either in 10 or 12-team leagues. But forget about that depth in those 8 to 10-team leagues. You'll find someone on waivers. That's my strategy. If you're in a 12-team league, be a little more careful. Save a couple bullets in the chamber in case someone does get hurt, because you're not finding anyone in a 12-team league. We're going to talk about waivers later. It's super thin in my 12-team leagues. I'm still grabbing guys that I'm at least somewhat comfortable with starting in 10-team leagues, and it's even more prevalent in an 8-team league. I'm just not in any of them. So if you're positioned in the playoffs right now with a decent total to where you look like you're going to be in the playoffs and have a chance at that trophy, that money, that beer, whatever you play for, you got to get a guy like Justin Jefferson. Look at the last place teams in your league. Those are the guys that got to be throwing up Hail Marys. It's do or die for a lot of teams this week in fantasy. A few of my teams are do or die this week. It's week 8. There's no bye weeks this week. It's all systems go. All your guys, as long as they're healthy, are going to be – it's going to be your optimal lineup. So if you need to throw up a Hail Mary and you got to trade a Justin Jefferson, look to those top dogs in your league and get a couple pieces or whatever you think your team needs to maybe try and climb back in it. We were talking about it, and maybe it speaks to the sharpness of the leagues that we are in. There's a lot of parity in fantasy this year. None of my leagues, nobody's really running away with them. Jesse, you run an auction league every year. I think everybody, at least after week 6, I haven't looked at the standings yet after waivers and last week, but everyone was 3-3. No one separated themselves. Maybe that's a lot. There's not scoring this year. Maybe overs will start hitting. Maybe guys will start putting up more stats. I don't know. But 8, 10-team leagues, I'm 1,000% trying to build the best starting roster I can for my stretch run. Adding a guy like Justin Jefferson, if you have a good team, it's all gravy. You don't have to put up with him when he had his hamstring injury. You're trading for him, and in 2 weeks, he's going to be healthy, being Justin Jefferson. Even Justin Jefferson at 60, 70% is better than probably more than half the league from a fantasy standpoint at receiver. So It depends on your situation, but if you want to go for it, go for it. Don't fiddle around in the middle. Like, go for it. Build the best starting lineup you can for your stretch run. And if you need to throw up a Hail Mary, make sure you get guys that are at least established in this league. Like the trade today, I traded Raheem Mostert and Nico Collins for Jamar Chase. That's a no-brainer for me. Last place team had Jamar Chase and Travis Etienne, not much else. So I was able to trade a guy, Raheem Mostert, who've been trying to trade for weeks. I think A-Chain is going to come back soon and be a factor there. Miami likes to flip their running backs around, so I've been trying to trade Mostert for weeks. And Nico Collins, I mean, he's had a couple good games, but that rookie wall with C.J. Stroud, that could become a thing. Those are the kind of trades. 2 weeks ago, I traded Dameon Pierce and Zay Flowers, 2 okay players, for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Game script helped Amon-Ra St. Brown a lot. They got smoked by the Baltimore Ravens, but Amon-Ra St. Brown gets 15 targets every week. Those 2 teams are now in great shape to make a run because I went for it, traded my death, and built the starting lineup, the best starting lineup that I could. Mike, I know you love Devin A-Chain. Is he a guy you're making a move for?
I am. I'm trying to at least. I got a counter offer in one of my leagues for Devin A-Chain where this guy who has him offered me A-Chain and Pitts for Gibbs and Jahmyr Gibbs and Laporta, and I had to walk away from that table. Problem was the 2 players that I was getting, Pitts wouldn't be a starter and A-Chain's on the bench. And in turn, I'd be giving up Laporta, who's the 4th ranked tight end, and Gibbs, who just flashed this past week. To me, I'm giving up way more than what I'm getting back. Like, I don't want Pitts in the trade. I would just want A-Chain. So it's been a little tough sledding for me to get A-Chain. I have reached out in a couple of leagues to get him. Still trying to get him, but at the same time, I can't overpay for him because of the backfield situation that he's in. He's in backfield with Mostert, Jeff Wilson, and I have to see how it works now that they're all going to be back in a couple of weeks. I mean, Wilson and Mostert are there now. We're just waiting on A-Chain to come back. So unlike Jefferson, where I know he's going to come back in, he's going to get his 10 to 12, 15 targets. I don't know what they're going to do with A-Chain and how they're going to do it. I mean, they're not going to keep him on the bench, but is he only going to get 5 carries, 7 carries? What's his usage going to be? And that's what concerns me about potentially giving up Laporta and Gibbs in that deal.
So it's Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta for A-Chain
and Pitts
and Kyle Pitts. I mean, Laporta is better than Pitts. Gibbs is better than A-Chain. You're giving up the 2 best guys in that deal.
Yeah, I walked away when he countered with that offer, and he thought it was a fair deal.
And you've heard me before. I don't like making fantasy football trades unless, whether it's baseball, basketball, whatever. Like, I need to make sure I'm getting the best player. So, I mean, that trade, nah. I mean, this is the last now, because you know what? I say that now. This is the last year I'm going to die on the Kyle Pitts hill, but I'll be picking him next year.
I'll say wait till he's in the 8th or 9th round next year.
I'll be better quarterback. Maybe they trade him. He's on a different team or something. Who knows?
You guys laughed at me for starting Desmond Ridder last week. He got me 17 points. That's solid off the waiver wire. Team still lost because it's trash, but I mean, it wasn't his fault. At least not entirely.
On red zone, I thought about you, Rob.
Yeah, he ran it in too for that 6-pointer. It was sweet. I was hyped for about. I opened the app. I was like, oh, maybe I'm winning in that league this week. Nah, it wasn't happening. But I mean, Jesse, would you like to discuss any of your trade targets, any moves you're trying to make, any trade offers that you got?
Yeah, I mean, no one cares about your team, right? So it's so specific team to team. And we've been harping on it. It's really team need, right? What does your team need? Do you need that one big player? Try and consolidate and up your starting roster, for a deep playoff run. Do you need a few players to fill out your roster? To replace injuries, and people out on buys. Obviously, no buys this week or whatnot. I don't have any one player that I'm targeting across the board. I need to get him. This guy, I know he's going to break out. I will say that I have been looking at a lot of these running backs, right? I was pretty wide receiver heavy in a lot of my drafts. So a lot of my teams are wide receiver heavy, and my wide receivers have hit. So I've been looking at some of these struggling running backs. I was able to pull off a trade for Derrick Henry. So it's a 12-team PPR league, but I got Derrick Henry and Tajay Spears, right? So I locked down the whole Tennessee backfield, and now this was last week, right, going into the bye. So I locked down the Tennessee backfield, and I gave up Amari Cooper. I gave up Nuke Hopkins and Zach Moss. So, help fill out, the flex. You can start 2 flex positions in this league. So help fill out the flex, give him a little running back, help back. And, and so that's a trade I pulled off. What do you guys think about that? Like
that's
I said,
that's a really interesting trade because I've been seeing a lot of smoke on who knows what's true and what's not on Twitter and the internet, but I've been seeing a lot of smoke that the Ravens are super interested in Derrick Henry. So if let's just hypothetically, if he goes to Baltimore, then you have the number 1 running back on the Ravens and the Titans because, Tajay Spears is going to be the number 1 running back in Titans. On the Titans.
That would be ideal.
That would be, obviously you didn't know that. I think I'm in this league and this happened, going into the games last week, I think.
Correct.
But, with that news with Derrick Henry, that's super interesting. And DeAndre Hopkins, and the real NFL trade deadline is October 31st, Halloween, Tuesday at 4:00. There's smoke with him all over the place too. So maybe the guy who got DeAndre Hopkins, maybe he can get DeAndre Hopkins in a better situation. Amari Cooper's really hit or miss this year. He's been getting his targets for the most part, but Deshaun Watson's not healthy, and PJ Walker, bless his soul from Temple, he's not an NFL quarterback. And it's only a matter of time before Jonathan Taylor gets that full workload out of Zach Moss. But, they're rolling with a backup in Indy, so maybe there's enough to eat at that table for 2 running backs to get. It's a home run if Derrick Henry goes to the Ravens and you get 2 RB1s out of it.
Yeah, that would be ideal for me. But, even if the situations remain the same, the trade definitely helps both teams. I'm putting all my eggs in Derrick Henry basket. And luckily, Tajay Spears was the real kicker, because I needed to lock down that entire backfield in order to be able to do it. But that's just one trade that I've been able to pull off more recently. And like I said, I've been targeting a lot of these struggling running backs. So guys like, Javonte Williams is starting to break out, starting to get all of the work out there in Denver. Josh Jacobs has been getting a lot of work. Hasn't really been producing, especially in the running game, and especially for anyone that was hoping to get a repeat of last season where he set the rushing title. But Josh Jacobs is also someone I've been targeting. I haven't been able to, pry him away in any leagues, but I've certainly been targeting him. And, we can keep going on just other guys that I think are going to have stronger second halves, maybe than first halves, trade targets. Michael Pittman and Josh Downs, if you weren't able to get Downs off of waivers, I think both wide receivers out there in Indianapolis are arrow up, with Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew is not nearly as dynamic of a playmaker as Anthony Richardson is or has the capability of being. But I think at this point, he is definitely a better, passer of the football, right? Better pocket passer for sure. And, you're seeing the Indy passing game excel. And, you don't have to worry about Gardner Minshew running the ball, right? It's going to be more of a traditional offense. They're going to hand the ball off to their running backs, Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss, and then they're going to throw the ball to their wide receivers. And I don't think that there is a relevant tight end in Indianapolis. So it really is those 2 wide receivers in the passing game. There's just like 2 other guys that I think are going to have great second halves of the year. Just to throw another name out there, and I'll let you guys talk about him. Breece Hall. Breece Hall, the team that we were talking about, Rob, in that auction league where I made that trade. My team is going to live and die with Breece Hall. If he's a first-round caliber player for the second half of this fantasy season, Breece Hall is going to win not just me championships, but a lot of you all out there as well.
Yeah, and Dalvin Cook, I don't really see him. I don't know what happened to Dalvin Cook.
They might be moving him. Word is they're trying to move him.
Well, that would be definite stock up for Breece Hall if that happens. Definitely keep it locked here on A2D Radio, Twitter, all your alerts for the real trading deadline because it can impact your fantasy football team. For me, arrow up is Rashee Rice. He's becoming the number one. I mean, Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce. But that outside threat, Rashee Rice, he's getting more targets each week. He's finding the end zone. He's fantasy relevant. We have a lot of Rashee Rice toss-ups when we talk about our flex options because I don't see how I can keep him on the bench right now. If you can trade for him, maybe you're in a 8-10 team league where people are sleeping. He's out there. I can't imagine he's out there in any leagues anymore. But Rashee Rice would be my arrow-up guy to target in trades. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is his quarterback. That's really all I need to know. I'm not worried about Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore. Like, that's Rashee Rice's job to win, and he's starting to do it. I think he could be a very, very viable league winner for a lot of people, much like Breece Hall that Jesse just mentioned.
I want to stay in that offense and talk about Patrick Mahomes because if you guys are like me, I don't really target quarterbacks high. I generally let them go unless somebody falls, and I just can't pass up on them. And so in a couple of my leagues, Patrick Mahomes is sitting there on the last place guy, the second to last place guy, and I'm just looking, I'm like, might be an opportunity. So let me know what you guys' thoughts on this trade offer I sent out. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, I'd be getting them. I offered Trevor Lawrence, Calvin Ridley, so he'd have the stack too, and then George Kittle. I have depth. I don't need that. I'd rather upgrade my quarterback and tight end.
I wouldn't be giving up Travis Kelce if I were that guy. But, I mean, I don't know his full roster. I don't know your full roster. Like,
he's 0-7. I'm 4-3. I'm probably in the third or fourth playoff spot. So, like I said, I can absorb a loss there in the receiver room.
I mean, Calvin Ridley has to get going here, right? Or is this just a lost year for Calvin Ridley because he sat out? I should have learned my lesson when I drafted Le'Veon Bell in all my teams in the first round, his first year with the Jets after he sat out a year. But I went back to the well again and said he wasn't injured. He was suspended. He'll be fine. He's Calvin Ridley. I think he led the league. Didn't he win the receiving title the last year he played?
He was up there. He was up there.
Yeah,
he was up there.
Yards. I think he might have led the league in yards. But it really just seems he can't beat man coverage right now. And the league has figured it out. He's faced, a tough road of some really good one-on-one, get up in your face, man cornerbacks. And that's really eaten into Ridley's production and has, forced the offense to shift a little bit and shift its focus over to Christian Kirk. So I still think Ridley's going to have his moments. He's going to have his weeks. But I think you and I were both wrong when we expected Ridley to be a wide receiver one, a week in and week out guaranteed fantasy start. I think I have to drop him down to, ideal wide receiver 3, flex range, right? Okay, you can get away with him as your wide receiver 2, but I think Ridley was ideally a wide receiver 3, just the way it's playing out, the way that offense is playing out. I do think it's time for that guy to switch things up in your league, Mike. I don't know that that's exactly the trade that I would be making if I were him. I don't blame you for trying to pull it off. I would just need more thunder. If I'm giving up Mahomes and Kelce, I'm going to need to get, I'm going to need some real boom coming back on my team, in order to make a run. Because if you can't make a run with Mahomes and Kelce, I don't see your team making a run with Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley. You know what I mean?
Well, Kittle's in that trade.
Yeah,
I know Kittle's in there, but come on. Yeah, Kittle's good. He's going to have 2 big weeks, and then for the rest of the season, and that's it.
Now, if you do, for people that are listening that might be in that guy you propose the trades, like that guy should be looking to move Patrick Mahomes for position players. Mm-hmm. and just play the waiver wire for quarterback.
Yeah.
That would be my strategy to anyone out there that's in that position. You're 1-6, you're 0-7. You got this stud quarterback that's not who's okay, but you drafted him to be the MVP of the league, and he's not. So I would if you were offering me that trade and I had Patrick Mahomes, I would say no, I'm keeping Kelsey. I want to use Mahomes to add to Kelsey and try and make a run that way. You're 0-7, you pretty much got to win out. 13 weeks.
You got 7 weeks left.
I guess there's if you're below 500, you shouldn't be making the fantasy playoffs. I guess maybe.
I mean, you could. Like I said, it's 10-team league, 6 players make the team, or 6 teams make the playoffs. So he's got to jump 4 people, essentially.
So,
doable.
It's going to be tough.
If you share the podcast with that group and that manager listens to this in time, if I were you, buddy, I would text the entire league and say Mahomes and Kelsey are going to the highest bidder. They're gone by Sunday. Send your best offers. And if I really didn't like you, Mike, I might be like, look at this clown offer that I got. I know you all can beat this. Number one, it gets the fantasy group chat, sparked up and talking and going. Number 2, you're going to get some offers. You put 2 players like that up there, it might not be offers that you necessarily want. Don't think that people are just going to, turn into Santa Claus and start handing out presents. Like, it ain't nothing like that. People are going to lowball you. They're going to try and play with you. But you'll see who's interested and who's not. And you'll get a deal done. Yeah, that's my strategy for teams like that, where I'm like, I got to switch it up. Here are my best assets. I need to trade these, 1, 2 players and fill out a roster basically from that, which you almost should be able to do with the right trade partner for a Patrick Mahomes and a Kelsey, right? Especially coming off big games. You should be able to get four starting players back, or at the very least, a first, second, and third round player, right? All 3, 3, something like that. So, that's what I would do. I would tell them, text the league. They are gone by Sunday. Send your best offers and stick to your guns. You might have to move them. But I think I did that with Jonathan Taylor.
With me,
last year. Talking about that.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor last year in a league, and I didn't make the playoffs, and I didn't win that league.
Neither did I.
But I got a trade done, and it was it was fine value. It made it interesting. And I won a game or 2.
Don't stop playing if you suck. Like, don't be that guy. Try and trade. Do your waivers. Set your lineup. Don't be that guy. Like, we play in multiple leagues. It doesn't always work out for us from season to season. But never stop playing. It's still fun to trade and do your lineup and do the waivers. Play spoiler. Don't give up. Don't be that asshole in the league that just gives up. All right, let's move it along to injuries last week. I think the biggest one for me in regards to my fantasy football season, looks like Jerome Ford's going to miss some time for the Cleveland Browns. At least he got a 70-yard, busted one against the Colts for 70 yards before he got hurt. But that's a big loss. Jerome Ford, the way we play, all 3 of us, we go receiver heavy, and we try to find running backs along the way. Nick Chubb got hurt tragically in the first game of the season. Second game of the season, I was able to grab Jerome Ford on a lot of teams. He's been absolutely terrific. Looks like a 1 to 2 week ankle sprain, so not devastating, but he's got the doubtful tag as of Wednesday night. Probably not going to play. That's probably the big one for me. Kareem Hunt and Pierre Strong, potential touchdown vulture, look to be moving to the forefront in the Cleveland backfield, who scores points somehow, even though Deshaun Watson stinks. Doesn't make any sense.
They've had terrible quarterback play for the past, 5, 6, 7 years?
They came back in the league. Have they ever had a good quarterback? They came back into the league in 1999. Tim
You're right, have they?
Kelly Holcomb.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield, total bust. They never have
Weeden. There's a lot of just drugs that just went through there.
Johnny Football Johnny. He didn't work out. Yeah. Great college player. His documentary is wild. If you haven't caught that, you should catch it. But yeah, they never have good points, but they're scoring points this year somehow. But yeah, Jerome Ford, that's a big loss for fantasy. Dawson Knox also is having wrist surgery. Brings me to my number one. If Dalton Kincaid's out there in your league, you should get him. I mean, that's my number one waiver priority this week. I don't think I got him in any of the leagues that he was on waivers because I've used all my budget on guys like Jerome Ford. But I mean, if you have Dalton Kincaid, I think he's a must start unless you have Laporta or Kelsey or Mark Andrews. There's only a few must start tight ends. Dawson Knox had wrist surgery. He's going to be out for a while. And I love Dalton Kincaid at Utah. And somebody's got to step up behind Stephon Diggs and be that number 2 pass catcher for Josh Allen. I think it definitely could be Dalton Kincaid. He plays on Thursday Night Football. So remember to check those lineups.
So I targeted a different tight end. Zach Ertz got put on IR down in Arizona. And so I went after Trey McBride. I liked him last year. I think he's definitely going to be getting a lot of the targets, especially with Hollywood Brown potentially being on the move at the trade deadline. I think that would open up even more. Kyler Murray was a full participant in practice and loved Trey McBride. I see a lot of upside with Trey McBride, and we're about to see for the next 4 to 5 weeks what he's got because he's the only guy there, basically. I think the only guy behind him is Jeff Swain. He was a 7th-round pick a couple of years ago, so I don't think he's really much competition for McBride right now.
Yeah, Mackey Award winner, Trey McBride, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
that's a North Dakota State guy, right?
That is correct.
Am I off on that?
I thought it was North Dakota State.
One of them.
Yeah,
from
one of those somewhere really cold. I'll never move to.
From one of the states, definitely from one of the states.
Because he went to the same. I think he went to the same.
I think he was going Carson's team.
Carson.
Yeah.
Anyway, fun fact.
I might be wrong, but we'll find out.
Jesse, waivers, injuries, thoughts?
No other crazy injuries that that really affected my fantasy teams. Just some of these guys coming back from injury, and getting healthy. In terms of waivers, there was really no one that I had to get this week, right? We're in some pretty competitive leagues, especially leagues with deeper benches. So, waiver wires are not really that plentiful. But, Darrell Henderson was someone who I was able to scoop up last week. I just didn't believe in Evans, who a lot of people were spending big fab dollars on to get, hoping that he would lead the Rams backfield in rushing. But Darrell Henderson knows the offense. Darrell Henderson was brought in quickly, and he got the work and rewarded anyone that was able to start him. So Darrell Henderson, if he's available out there in any leagues, I'm sure your waivers have already run, but you might as well take a peek. Damian Williams for really, really deep leagues. Another guy, who people might want to take a peek out there. Got a decent amount of work for Arizona, backing up. What's the guy's name? Marco D'Amico, the running back for Arizona. But regardless.
Imari DeMercado.
There you go.
He actually he got some run last week.
He did, yeah. He got the bulk of the work.
They had 17 for 58.
But like I keep saying, every single episode, you need to be filling your bench out with high upside backup running backs, right? And that hasn't stopped. So go out there and just look through the waiver wire, right? Compare it next to the depth charts. See who is the number 2, right? If they are available. And then, before you just add them, really think to yourself or, do a little research. If they get the work, can they produce, and be a top end wide receiver running back, for your fantasy team? Because not everyone can step right in and actually produce for your team, right? And there's nothing worse than being right, hitting on that guy that, that gets the call and gets the nod. And then you're like, it's Kenyon Drake, who doesn't even matter if he's out there or not. He's still going to end up with 0 fantasy points, right? So, you really want to see if these guys can actually hit that home run. But like I said, those are the running backs that I've been excited for, and been looking for on waivers. Salvador Ahmed. He's someone who, is just an injury or two away. I still like Kendre Miller for New Orleans. He's still only, an injury or so away. Kamara is getting ridiculous usage. I just don't understand what they're doing. They have good receivers, yet they want to throw the ball 17 times to the running back. But okay, that's fine. All that's going to do is open him up for more injury risk. Jamal Williams has already been injured. So Kendre Miller, he's definitely the guy out there.
Yes, I was gonna say I think Derek Carr's got an issue with Olave and his route running. If you watched a couple of times, Olave's been pulling up and not running the correct routes, and I think there was a couple of clips where Derek Carr is screaming at him, "What the F are you doing?" So that might have something to do with it, that he actually just trusts Michael Thomas and Kamara more.
Well, Olave might be a punk, which I didn't have any indication of, because New Orleans PD has issues with Chris Olave as well, doing 17 and a 35, getting himself locked up on Tuesday.
And then saying I play for the Saints.
You call him a punk, I just call him an American, man. That's an all-American boy. There ain't nobody got time to 35.
He's getting arrested. I mean, that's no bueno for my fantasy team, because I have a futures bet, which is shot on Chris Olave.
70 and a 35. You can't even get in trouble anywhere where it's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, man. That's like a mall. My car idles over 35.
Yeah. And I don't know. So that's something to monitor. Looks like he's going to be able to play as of Wednesday evening. Obviously, something to monitor. Deep sleeper for me this week is Rashad Johnson, third receiver for the Saints. Maybe he gets deep if you're really stuck. You shouldn't be stuck this week. You shouldn't be grasping at straws on waivers like you have in weeks past. There's no bye weeks this week, and they'll get going again next week, and week 9 we'll have you covered. But yeah, definitely monitor that Chris Olave situation, both the Derek Carr and his legal troubles.
Honestly,
Rob, I think it'll happen if they suspend him. It'll happen next year. They'll say they'll let the court play out or something. That seems to be the NFL's MO as of late.
They're not going to suspend him. Come on.
I'm just saying if they did.
I'm just saying maybe a team suspension. They sit him down for a game. I don't know. Just
maybe, but he's still only going 70. It's like I know he doubled up the speed limit.
I couldn't even believe he got cuffed.
Yeah,
I know it's double and it's reckless driving, but just write him a ticket and let him go. And then I guess his license will be gone for a year. At least I think that's the PA law. 6 months.
I mean, look, he broke the law. He was committing a crime, but that sounds like a little Napoleon, man. Got himself a little badge and some handcuffs. And he tried to talk his fantasy. He didn't do himself any favors. I don't know if you got the video, but he was like, "Yeah, I play for the Saints. I don't think little Napoleon 5-0 like that one." Yeah,
he did not like that one.
No. All right. Before we get into the rest of the program, let's go to Royal Billiards for a quick one.
Royal Billiard and Recreation, proudly celebrating 40 years and our new, bigger showroom.
Twice the size and twice the fun.
More pool tables by Olhausen. More dartboard sets, including custom reclaimed backboards. More bar and kitchen stools that can change a room.
And more bars, including pre-built and custom.
Hot tubs, skee ball, shuffleboard, outdoor, and fun. Royal Billiard and Recreation, your ultimate game room store. Now located on Bethlehem Pike in Colmar.
There they are on Bethlehem, 515 Bethlehem Pike in Colmar, PA. They are Royal Billiards. Find all your game room needs at Royal Billiards. Pool tables, bar stools, anything you need. Turn any ordinary room into an extravagant man cave. RoyalBilliards.com. Tell them A2D Radio sent you. Let's go with some flex options. I'm going to start because I'm fed up with Calvin Ridley. I have Calvin Ridley right now, as of Wednesday evening, on the bench in a couple of leagues in favor of Rashee Rice. Smart, dumb.
No, I think it's a smart move. You know, Calvin Ridley, I don't get it. He was supposed to be the guy down there. The last couple of weeks, he has not been that, and it might be time to sit him down. I mean, I sat him down in my one league. He's no longer in my flex. I put Olave up in my flex instead of Ridley. So I definitely think it's a smart move. Patrick Mahomes is slowly starting to show that Rice is the guy to go to behind Kelsey. Sky Moore, Tony, Scantlin, all those guys, none of them have really separated themselves to the point where they had to go and make a trade for McCole Hardman. So I think that bodes well for Rice because it looks like Rice is going to get his targets and those other guys are going to hurt for targets. So, yeah.
I think it's fine. You know, if that's really where you want to go. You know, I can't blame anyone for being upset with the production that they've gotten from Ridley. I mean, he's really only had, 2 big games or so this season. I would, you know, continue to listen to us, you know, or, you know, do a little research yourself. There's a lot of, you know, good free resources out there. But I would really look a little deeper if you're a Calvin Ridley owner into some of his splits and, you know, look deeper into the numbers to try and find out exactly why, you know, he hasn't had such a great game. And you really will see that he does much better in zone coverage versus man. So when he's going up against, you know, any of these teams that have really good lockdown one-on-one cornerbacks, that might be a week where you want to, you might want to consider starting a different flex over Calvin Ridley. Since he has definitely been relegated to, a wide receiver 3 or a flex option. So again, do I have a problem with starting Rice over Ridley or not? No. And, you know, this is the time to do it. You know, Rice is on the upswing. Ridley's on the downswing. Would I do it? I think I would still play Ridley. But don't forget, I was really high on Ridley coming into the season. You know, I was drafting Ridley, you know, in the, you know, depending on when the draft was, right? 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. I was drafting Ridley expecting to get a low-end wide receiver 1, right? I really thought Ridley was going to come right back into the league, step in, into a great offense with a great quarterback and be a wide receiver 1. He has not been that. And he hasn't even been a wide receiver 2. But I just wanted, you know, full complete disclosure. I'm a little bit higher on Ridley. So I would probably still play him. But I wouldn't bat an eye if I saw my opponent, sit Ridley for Rice. I also kind of view Kansas City wide receivers, besides Tyreek Hill, right? Kansas City wide receivers kind of like New England running backs. And they're like, I just don't trust them. You know, if you have one, you just play them, you know, and you hope you catch lightning in a bottle, right? But they're so hard to predict, you know, because Mahomes is just going to throw the ball to whoever's open. You know what I mean? Yeah, Rice will have 100 catches one week, and then the next week he won't have any catches. And the simple answer will be he wasn't open. You know what I mean? Or we were targeting something else. So, that's a tough one, Rob. But I think I would stick with Ridley. But I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to go with Rice.
I mean, Rashee, I talk about him I talk about Calvin Ridley a lot too. That's really, so the rest of the time is yours. That's really, I mean, this toss up is, I think it's a 3-league toss up. I'm in 5 leagues. I have that toss up for a flex. I think it's a wide receiver 2 in another league. That's really all I got. I got to decide if I want to stick with Calvin Ridley. I mean, Jesse, we were together on Thursday, and I turned my phone on. I'm like, wow, okay, cool. The Jaguars scored 31 points. Looked at Calvin Ridley's stats. He had 1.5 points. Yeah. Threw my phone across the hotel parking lot, literally, when I saw
So another wide receiver that I have on a lot of leagues, and they have found themselves in the flex discussion now, is DK Metcalf. You know, I don't know if I'm just jaded at his, pretty late last-minute scratch last week or what, but I drafted DK Metcalf, in drafts, expecting to get a high-end wide receiver 2, with the upside of a wide receiver 1, if this were really his year and he, popped and blew up. I was expecting Seattle's offense to continue the strides that it made last season, and it just really hasn't continued those strides. They've been a fine team. They're still a playoff team, in terms of real life football, but Seattle hasn't been the high flying offense that that we were really expecting coming into the season, right? They haven't let Geno cook, right? Out there, even though he's got all the the KitchenAid mixers and the sous chefs in the kitchen to whip up any type of meal that you could possibly imagine. They haven't let Geno cook. So Metcalf, I have him in my flex, and now I'm trying to decide in a lot of leagues, wide receiver to wide receiver. I'm trying to decide between Metcalf and guys like Chris Godwin or Hollywood Brown. And then if you're trying to cross the lines, right, wide receiver versus running back, I've been having to decide between Metcalf and guys that I picked up off of waivers like Deontay Foreman, right, and Darrell Henderson, right, or guys who are a little bit down the wide receiver rankings like a Brian Robinson. So just to recap, Metcalf either versus wide receivers like Hollywood Brown and Chris Godwin, or versus running backs along the lines of guys like Brian Robinson, right, and any running back of that general caliber, Darrell Henderson coming off of his big work usage, or a Devonta Foreman who had career high in touchdowns and put up some pretty darn good receiving yard numbers.
I mean, you answered your own question at the beginning of your rant about DK Metcalf. You are pissed off that he was a late scratch last week. I mean, if you had a legitimate replacement for DK Metcalf, maybe you think about it. But DK Metcalf, I mean, he's one of the better receivers in the league. He's got the body, he's got the speed, he can do absolutely everything. He's a touchdown waiting to happen. You didn't name one. I mean, Chris Godwin would be something to think about. He's going on Thursday Night Football. He looks super iffy with a neck injury. So monitor that. I mean, Brian Robinson has a terrible matchup against the Eagles. The Eagles defense is absolutely elite. I mean, Dolphins have been running up scores on everyone, and they did not on Sunday Night Football against the Eagles. What was it? Marquise Goodwin. Hollywood Brown. Arizona, they play. I don't know. I'm going with DK over that. I don't know. The former team. I mean, maybe he gets in the end zone, but I mean, you're jaded. You're jaded on DK Metcalf because he was a late scratch for you. He was a late. I have a DK in a lot of leagues. I own a lot of stock in DK Metcalf, and that pissed me off too, especially since they're out in the West Coast and they play at 4. So your options are super limited when that kind of stuff happens. But I believe he's off the injury report as of Wednesday evening. So you got to ride with DK Metcalf. He could go out Sunday or whenever he plays and be the number 1 receiver in fantasy easily. So I mean, that's my take on it.
For me, I have just one flex, I guess, question. It comes down to Gibbs and Olave. My receivers are stacked. Obviously, I went receiver heavy. I ended up with Tyreek Hill. I got Puka in a free agency. So I've been able to move Olave down to the flex spot. But now with Gibbs flashing, now I'm like, So what do you guys think, Gibbs or Olave?
Did Gibbs flash, or did Gibbs get bailed out by a game script where they threw the ball way more than they were supposed to?
That is concern.
I would need to see Gibbs. Now, look, I have Gibbs on teams, and he's in my 1 or 2, either RB1 or RB2 slot, because I stack up on receivers. But, I mean, I think I'm going to have to see Gibbs pop off in, like, a traditional game rather than a game where he's just going to get a ton of garbage time.
Who else is going to run the ball? Like, who else is going to – they don't have anyone else. With Montgomery being hurt.
Yeah.
I think their hand is forced. I think they're going to have to give Gibbs the ball. Now, Gibbs versus Olave, that's I'm assuming it's a PPR league and all. That's almost like, do you want the safer floor or do you want the higher upside? Almost, although both players have a really high upside. Olave's still getting crazy targets, right? He's not putting up big fantasy numbers, but he got 15 targets last week, 10 targets the week before, 5 and 6 before that, but double-digit targets in 5 out of 7 weeks, right? Double-digit high being 15. If you're still getting targets like that, Chris Olave,
stick with Olave.
You're going to have to start him most weeks.
Yeah.
I like in PPR formats, I look for every excuse imaginable to start the receiver over running back. Okay. I want my 2 receivers, receiver 1 and receiver 2, to be studs, and then I want both my flexes to be at least wide receiver 2 caliber.
Yeah.
I don't know, who are your running backs in it? I mean, I love Gibbs.
I love Gibbs, but the problem is I have Kamara and I have Mostert. Right now, I don't think I can start Gibbs over Mostert.
Miami is playing New England. Grumpy Bill found a way to beat Josh Allen last week. Raheem Mostert does have a questionable tag as of Wednesday night. That's more.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more of your question. It would be Mostert or Gibbs. I think you have to start Olave.
Okay.
I agree with Jesse. All right, let's talk about our survivor pick. There's our friends at hats.com. In 2018, Brian Dawkins went into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Get his party fedora at hats.com. Use promo code Philly for 15% off and catch Brian Dawkins live here, exclusively on A2D Radio, every other Thursday with vetted Irving Fryer, Hollis Thomas, Brian Dawkins, every other Thursday, exclusively here on A2D Radio. Jesse, survivor pick. You're the only one left. I would have been out last week, so I can't fret too much about the Eagles losing to the Jets. I probably would have had either the Rams or the Raiders last week, who both lost outright. So my complaining about being out of survivor is over.
Yeah, I mean, myself and the rest of the world took Seattle last week. A little mini sweat in the beginning of the game, but they found a way to bring it home and pull it out. I have not put in a survivor pick yet for this week. It is not the easiest week, just looking at the schedule. I have zero feel for the Chargers ever, right? Whenever they ask, if there's one game you could eliminate, not have to think about, not have to bet on, what game would it be, blah, blah. It's always the Chargers for me. I just can't. I don't have a beat on them. I don't know. But they do get the Bears at home, and it's in the Sunday night game. That might be the way I'm looking. Like I said, I don't trust the Chargers. I can never get a good read on them. So why not if I'm going to use them, why not use them against a team like the Bears, where they should be able to handle that game at home, should be, quote unquote, should be. I kind of wish that Justin Fields was still starting for the Bears, so I knew exactly what I was getting. That dude last week, Bagent or whatever, he looked fine. He did not look overmatched. He looked like an NFL quarterback, and I'd almost rather have Fields back there, knowing that, all you got to do is get a little pressure. He's going to run and, throw that ball up in the air, So, but, just looking at the schedule quickly, the Chargers on Sunday Night Football might have to be my pick.
That's the Sunday night game? They can't flex that out?
No, man. I don't think you can flex till after Thanksgiving.
Ugh.
Yeah, America likes to see, their token white boy with the long curly hair.
I mean, you got the Bengals and the Niners sitting there at 425. I mean,
but you got sunshine.
Flex it. Yeah, sunshine. I mean, anyone out there that has the Bears, not the Bears, the Lions alive as a suicide option, They got absolutely destroyed last week. I believe that they are a good football team. How good, we'll see. They're favored by 8 at home over the Raiders. Raiders just lost to said stinky Bears. What was the final of that game? 38-6 down in Baltimore. Lions just got totally embarrassed, boat raced. They're going to bounce back. They're a good team. So if you have the Lions in your survivor pool, pick them without hesitation. They're going to beat.
So since we have a few minutes and you brought it up, like, are the Lions good? Is Baltimore like really good? Are they like actually a Super Bowl contender? You know, kind of good.
Well, Lamar's settling.
Is Dallas like just a purely wild card team that just isn't very good at all? They just have that logo. These are just teams that you thought he had a beat on them, and the last like week or two, it just seems like they flipped. Is New Orleans actually good? Are they?
They are not good. I'll help you out.
New Orleans stinks. New Orleans stinks. The Ravens are the Ravens are for real. Lamar is starting to settle in to this offense, with this new coordinator, and he's got Odell and Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. He got plenty of weapons. He's very efficient throwing the football right now. I know the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and the Dolphins have looked sexy at times, but the Ravens are right up there in the AFC. I think they're 1,000% for real.
I mean, the Dolphins may be suspect. Their wins have come against teams that are not good. Like, those 5 wins are against teams not good. The 2 losses that they have are against teams that are good. So how real are the Dolphins?
They're like the Sixers, man. They beat up on bad teams, but put up anyone that's their size and.
But I mean, I do think Detroit's good. Like, Goff is good enough. I mean, Goff's what? I mean, who would you rather have, Goff or Dak Prescott?
Dak Prescott. But anyway, the Lions are going to win that division.
I'd probably go to the draft.
The Lions are going to win that division. Dan Campbell's going to prove my future bet right for Coach of the Year. We're good.
I think Detroit's. I think they're a good team. I do.
Who's better, the Lions or the Vikings?
The Lions.
I think that's harder to answer than people think.
Yeah.
I think a fully healthy Vikings might beat the Lions.
I don't agree with that at all. The Lions are strong in the trenches, both offensively and defensively.
I mean, the Vikings just beat the 49ers without Jefferson.
I mean, okay, we can have this talk about the Niners.
Yeah.
I mean, but
the NFL, it's parity. That's what the NFL
fact
wants.
that it's even a conversation, is
that's what the NFL wants, to have that.
That would be my sleeper suicide pick. Would be the Vikings. It's on the road and it's a division game, so it goes against all my rules. But I mean, if you're getting down to it and you don't have a lot of options left, Minnesota's going to beat the Packers.
Yeah, Packers have not looked good as of late.
And then they're going to.
And the Packers just put their safety, Darnell Savage, and their corner, Eric Stokes, on IR. So they're out for the next 4 weeks.
So they're thin. And
who's
they're not
better, the Cowboys or Seattle?
Cowboys.
I need to see. I like Seattle a lot. I like Seattle a lot in the preseason, but they got to show me more before I can put them up with that defense. I think if they played, I think that defense would overwhelm that offense.
Who's better, the Cowboys or the Jaguars?
I mean, week 9's coming. We're about to find out. We're going to get our measuring stick test week 9.
Better pop your blue chews, bro, and be ready.
No, we'll be ready.
I thought the Eagles played. I thought you come to the link on November.
Week 9.
Isn't this week?
This is week 7, isn't it?
Yeah, and then it's week 8, and then it's week 9.
And then it's week 9. Yeah, we got the Rams, and then
the Eagles. I thought, unless I had the schedule mixed up.
Yeah, we have the Rams and the Eagles. Yeah, so 2 weeks.
Okay, so you play the Jaguars in 2 weeks. Okay,
Wait, no, we play the Eagles. It's the Rams and the Eagles.
So what are you talking about the Jaguars for? I don't understand.
No, Jesse was. I'm saying that the Cowboys measuring stick is against the Eagles. That's when we're going to find out who they are.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, Jalen Hurts is playing like Dak Prescott right now with all of his turnovers.
Whoa.
Measuring stick for the
Dak
Eagles
is the ninth best all time when it comes to not throwing interceptions. Last year was an anomaly. The media hyped that up.
This year's been an anomaly for Jalen Hurts as well.
He played 12 games. He played 12 games and led the league in interceptions.
That's pretty bad.
Yes, it was an anomaly.
He did not lead the league in interceptions. It was Josh Allen.
Okay.
Your bet's not working out, though, is it?
My bet worked last year. It worked.
This year.
It's not over.
Blah,
blah, blah.
Jalen's tossing them things out there like Christmas gifts.
He is tossing them out there like Christmas gifts. So you only lose 2 points for an interception in fantasy football.
He also tossing out W's.
He is. Hey, you guys look like the real deal.
That's right.
All right, we got to wrap things up. That'll do it for this edition of Real Talk Fantasy. For Jesse King, Mike Everly, I'm Rob Brinkman. Good luck this week. We'll see you next week.
See you.